What's a movie fact you know that pretty much no one else knows? The theme song from Mission Impossible spells out Emma in Morse code in repeat. When filming the rooftop scene in The Departed, a giant inflatable Arthur the Aardvark on top of a nearby children's museum would have dominated the background of many of the shots. The museum graciously agreed to temporarily deflate and remove Arthur. In Contagion, the autopsy performed on Gwyneth Paltrow used a prop head that was originally made for the finale of Seven. The latter decided against showing what was in the box and thus, years later it was reproposed. In other words, we finally got to see what was in the box. Leslie Nielsen was a critically acclaimed Western actor before he did Airplane. On the set, people were intimidated by him because of his status. But they had no idea that he was the set prankster. He's actually buried with a fart machine that he used to carry around to mess with people. Anthony Hopkins is an incredible mimic. Throughout his career, his looped post-production sound re-recording many well-known co-stars who were unavailable for re-recording sessions. He's never taken credit for this. In the first Shrek movie, Lord Farquaad is removing all the fairy tale creatures from the swamp. He wants Shrek's home too. In the old DVD extras they explain it's because he wants to build a theme park there. It's not explained at all in the movie. The original choice for Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story was Billy Crystal. He turned it down and went on to say it was one of the biggest mistakes of his career. When the opportunity to voice Mike in Monsters, Inc. came up, he jumped at it, as he didn't want to make the same mistake twice. In Pixar's Coco, the boy who was going to play Miguel hit puberty, changing his voice. The people in charge replaced him with someone younger. The original boy got a cameo where he is the guy working the stage asking him if he's ready to go on. The movie Dead Zone and Christmas Story were being filmed only a couple miles away from each other at the same time. Both productions were waiting for snow so they could film. It was unusually snowless winter. Finally, late in the season there was a significant snowfall. The scene where Sheriff Bannerman arrives at Johnny's house is being filmed at the exact moment of the tongue to the flagpole scene. In Aliens, after the first encounter with the aliens, as the Marines are retreating, there is a scene where they get in the troop carrier, and as they are getting ready to leave, an alien tries to get in. Hicks picks his shotgun off the deck, jams it in the alien's mouth, yells "Eat this" and blows it away. That whole scene was shot backwards because the actor, Michael Biehn, couldn't perform the move properly, so it was shot backwards, played in reverse, and then sound dubbed over it. Robert Englund, Freddie auditioned to be Luke Skywalker, but didn't get the role. He told his roommate Mark Hamill to go try out instead. Annie 1982, Carol Burnett and, apropos to this tale, Albert Finney. The scene where we first meet Daddy Warbucks Albert Finney, is looking at the Mona Lisa and tells the servants to take her away, then he changes his mind saying, "She has an interesting smile. I could get used to that smile." Hang her in the bathroom. The joke here is that the first owner after Leonardo died was King Francis I of France, who had her hanging in his bathing room. The whole of Eurotrip was filmed in Prague. Even the US scenes. In Wayne's World, when Wayne plays Stairway to Heaven and the store clerk points to a sign that says "No Stairway to Heaven," the audience is led to believe the clerks banned the song because they were tired of hearing it. However, the actual song was supposed to be featured in the movie, but Led Zeppelin's PR people pulled the plug at the last minute. So when Wayne says "No Stairway," denied. That's what he means. Cary Elwes broke his toe on a four-wheeler during filming The Princess Bride. He was worried Rob Reiner might fire him, so he kept it a secret. He worked the scenes before the fire swamp to make his character kind of nonchalant, but really he couldn't put much weight on his foot. Elwes has a different hairstyle in every scene in Legally Blonde. John Candy was paid less than $500 to appear as Gus Polinski in Home Alone. In Jurassic Park, the goat that gets fed to the T-Tex was named Brundon. Most of the cast of The Sound of Music, particularly Christopher Plummer, thought the movie was corny as hell. Not that they don't appreciate its legacy or impact, it's just objectively a ridiculously saccharine, albeit classic, film. Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer were so overcome by the corn fest that is the song Something Good that they couldn't get through a take without laughing and giggling. The decision was made to obscure their faces slightly, which is why the scene we see today is in silhouette. Edit Plummer, not Plummer. Carrie Fisher said that one time Alec Guinness gave Mark Hamill 10 to leave him alone. In Kung Fu Hustle, the woman who played the landlady of Pigsty Alley was in the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. Robert Shaw, Kint, in Jaws, could not stay in Massachusetts while filming Jaws. Had to be flown to Canada daily. Guess he owed the USA tax money, couldn't take any chances. Oh, and he was seasick all the time on the orca. In Free Willy 2 the orcas are all animatronic. My stepdad helped build them. Most people don't know this because nobody watched that movie. The couple kissing in Hook as Peter and Tinkerbell fly over them are George Lucas and Carrie Fisher. The original Halloween 1978 took place in Illinois in October. However, it was filmed in California in the springtime. To make it more believable, they had bags of dead autumn leaves shipped in. There was a person whose job it was to scatter the leaves around the set, then bag them back up and move them to the next filming location. The ship built for the Titanic set was 90 the size of the real thing. James Cameron spent more time with the real Titanic than those who sailed on her. I haven't really seen it mentioned anywhere, but in Step Brothers there is a pizza delivery thing that goes on top of a car in the boys' room. It's the same pizza delivery business that Ricky Bobby ends up working for in Talladega Nights. The crew agreed to do the shower scene in Starship Troopers so long as the director was also naked. And he was. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Judge Doom, played by Christopher Lloyd, never blinks once the entire movie. I won't say why for the sake of spoilers. I could talk at length about the crazy techniques and control rigs they developed to create what was the best ever integration of live action and animation, but that's my favorite fact. In the never-ending story, the horse Artax didn't die. However, Noah Hathaway almost drowned during the famous scene where the horse sinks in the swamp. The horse was standing on a platform that sunk into the mud, and Hathaway's shoe got caught in the mechanism and started to drag him under. The Emperor's New Groove was the first Disney movie to show a pregnant woman on screen. The movies Goodfellas and My Blue Heaven were both based on or inspired by the same guy. Goodfellas is based on a non-fiction book by Nick Pileggi based on interviews with the real Hank Hill. Nick Pileggi was married to Nora Ephron, who wrote the screenplay for My Blue Heaven. The two movies even share a line of dialogue: right after I got here, I ordered some spaghetti with marinara sauce, and I got egg noodles and ketchup. I like to pretend that My Blue Heaven is a sequel to Goodfellas. Before casting Martin Lawrence and Will Smith to be the two cops in Bad Boys, producers were trying to make it work with SNL's Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. The script was originally named Bulletproof Hearts. The first Iron Man movie, they lost the 3D rendering of the villain suit they spent almost a year designing due to a hard drive crash, and I was the tech that rescued the file. The designer was freaking out and basically told me that if we didn't rescue that file, his career and the movie would be in a huge pickle. In Seven, the studios tried to have the head in the box be Pitt's dog. The studio even had rewritten the script and sent it to the director and Pitt. Fortunately, they both had already seen and signed on because of the eventual ending, and refused to change it. They also had another ending where Somerset kills Doe before Mills can, thereby ruining Roth. Studios didn't want the protagonist to have a negative ending. Also, the head in the box was the same fake head that they used for Gwyneth in Contagion. In Toy Story, Andy is only 5, soon to be 6. It was released in 1995. In 1999, Toy Story 2 was released and Andy is now 9. In 2010, Andy is now 19-20 years old. Andy grew up in real time with the audience, and passed his toys to the next generation, just like we did with the movies. Every single scene in Home Alone contains something red and green in it. Go check for yourself if you don't believe me. Die Hard was adapted from a book. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is based on a true story. Ratner, the one who had the crush on Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, was an early personal computer pioneer who wrote several of the earliest, most successful for dummies books. In Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, there is a farewell scene with the two stars kissing inside an airplane hangar. The hangar has a plane outside Lockheed Electra 12A with a bunch of people working around it. The production was not allowed to film at an airport after dark for security reasons, so they used a sound stage with a small cardboard cutout airplane and forced perspective. The strange part is to give perspective of distance, they used little people for the workers. In Fight Club, in the scene where Ed and Brad wreck in the car, Ed crawls out of the driver's side, an early clue that he is Tyler. The part that few know is that there was an argument about it. Production thought it was a continuity error. Fincher was like nah and didn't explain. In the original script of Back to the Future, instead of a bolt of lightning, the plan was to power the flux capacitor by having Marty drive the DeLorean into a nuclear bomb test. E.T. and Poltergeist were developed from the same story about alien abductions. Steven Spielberg wrote a story treatment called Watch the Skies and had John Sayles flesh it out as a draft called Night Skies. Spielberg later decided to shift it in a more heartwarming direction, resulting in E.T., so he tapped Tobe Hooper to film the original version, but Hooper replaced aliens with the paranormal and it became Poltergeist. For the VHS version of the 1967 cult classic The President's Analyst, they couldn't get the rights to a Barry Maguire song, so they substituted an uncredited song that turned out to be really good, and a perfect fit for that scene. For the DVD, they went back to the original song, and the other one is not available anywhere except the VHS version of that movie. In Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when the two Jones are reunited and Henry Sr. learns his son has his journal, he says I should have sent it to the Marx Brothers. During World War II, one of the Marx Brothers was suspected of passing informations to the Russians during their shows. Jim Carrey in the movie Liar Liar on the final scene dressed up as his old in living color character Fire Marshal Bill in shades and walkie-talkie in the background with all the people on the street. LOL. The 4 segments in the Rodriguez-Tarantino movie 4 Rooms are all based on short stories by Roald Dahl. But it gets better. Sorry, this might be a bit UK specific. The Tarantino segment. The I bet my pinky finger my lighter will light first time, 10 times on the trot. That was the story for the very first Tales of the Unexpected. In Stuart Little there is a painting in the little house called Woman Holding a Black Vase. The original painting was considered lost and an art hunter took his son to the movie and saw the painting and called the studio to check and it ended up being the original. In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, when the Candy Man starts singing the Candy Man can song, there is a scene where he lifts the counter to walk out and the counter smacks this little girl in the head. In the song Be Prepared in the original animated version of The Lion King, actor Jeremy Irons didn't sing the whole song either because he couldn't hit the notes or because he got bronchitis. Regardless, Disney got legendary voice actor Jim Cummings to fill in. Don't believe me? Check the end credits. Jim is credited right alongside Irons for singing the sing. In Titanic, the lake in Wisconsin where Jack says he fell through the ice didn't exist yet. When Jack told Rose about how cold the water in the North Atlantic was, he mentioned himself falling through the ice in Lake Wissota, Wisconsin. Titanic sank in 1912, and Lake Wissota wasn't created until 1970.